Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
It's almost a revolution what Labour means for renewables investment. May 26, 2022, 11.04 Save login, register or subscribe to save articles for later. Share normal text size, larger text size, very large text size for view all comments. The 2022 election result will go down in history as a turning point in Australia's renewable energy transition. In his victory speech, Anthony Albanese pledged to end the climate wars and turn the country into a renewable energy superpower. Renewable energy investors have long cried out for policy certainty. Credit Dominic Lorimer. The loss of Liberal-held seats to Queensland Greens and City Independents has given Labor the mandate to achieve these goals. And investors, who have long cried out for policy certainty, are taking note. Clean Energy Investor Group head Simon Corbell, who represents $24 billion from investors, including Macquarie Bank, says unlocking investment starts from the top. To have a Prime Minister who is not grudgingly accepting the clean energy transition, but clearly and unambiguously embracing it, Corbell says. It's the type of leadership that investors have been calling for. But as the core flutes come down, expectations must be tempered with reality. Setting carbon reduction targets is easy. Delivering them is hard. There are enormous pools of debt and equity willing to finance this transition, but the private sector needs more than words before checks are cut. It's almost a revolution, says Quinbrook founder David Scacebrook, who manages $5 billion in clean energy projects across Australia, the US and UK. But for it to have real substance, we're going to have to see a Herculean commitment to detailed rules and policy. So, what needs to change? 1. Poles and wires. Australia's energy grid is built for a highly centralised system, with the bulk of electricity coming from coal plants in the Latrobe or Hunter valleys. Labor has committed to upgrading the grid, so it can handle more renewables, targeting 82% by 2030, which would see billions in private and public funds poured into new poles and wires. However, any investment in transmission first must pass the regulatory investment test for transmission, a complex and lengthy process. Corbell says the transmission line under construction to connect South Australia and NSW, Project Energy Connect, took more than a decade to approve. 2. Backup generation. While red tape needs cutting, Scacebrook says new rules must also to be written. Two key industry regulators, the Energy Security Board and Australian Energy Market Commission, in recent years have released detailed reform agendas to rapidly decarbonise Australia's energy system. Scacebrook says these must be adopted in full. This work has been done, it just didn't get the airtime it deserved under the previous government, he says. We need the Labor government to get behind the recommendations and implement them in a bipartisan way. The most critical of these reforms, he says, is the capacity mechanism, to underwrite generators that can snap into action when the wind isn't blowing and sun isn't shining. Similar to the UK's model, the mechanism would prevent blackouts by financing backup generators, such as batteries, gas or synchronous condensers, popular in the UK. These might only operate 5 to 10 minutes of the year, but that is the period when the lights go out, Scacebrook says. 3. Demand. While these factors work to increase the supply of renewable energy, the other side of the equation is decreasing demand. Some economies, such as Texas, provide financial incentives to major energy consumers to reduce or switch off power, when convenient. These consumers are now often signed up to long-term contracts, so are not exposed to market price fluctuations, meaning they have little reason to reduce electricity usage. Turning off a large customer is equivalent to having something in reserve, Scacebrook says. Rather than turning on a gas generator in times of peak power, you have large users turning down their load where they can. At an individual level, technology is developing to assist households to use energy in off-peak times, saving Australians cash while reducing stress on the system. 4. Collaboration. The new government faces a combination of circumstances that require action to be taken as quickly as possible. The economy is crying out for a nation-building agenda to help create jobs and drive growth. The science demands it, as the window to prevent the worst of climate change is fast closing. You can't afford to be late, says Scacebrook. The third time pressure is supply chains. Anyone who is renovating their home would know how difficult it is to obtain materials, causing construction timeframes to blow out. Australia's green energy transition requires a building boom. Everything is taking longer. What you may